Thanks very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. As the operator just described, my name is Clive Behrman, and I'm the Director of Marketing for Informatica. I have the pleasure today of having Eric Eggerson, who's going to do a wonderful demo, and Jim Hensel has graciously given up his time to further provide some real-world scenarios for our discussion today. So I'm just going to do a quick agenda, a quick overview of what this webinar is about. We're going to have a great demonstration. I've seen some of the stuff that Eric's got going, and it's really going to knock your socks off. I've seen Jim's presentation. He's got some great info. We'll quickly come back after that and talk about the Informatica Cloud overview, not just the automation piece here. We'll have question and answers from the questions you submit in the box, and then I've got some next steps for some great things to do too after the call. So with that, let's get right into it. So as we know, the Affordable Care Act was signed into law in March 2010, and really we're aiming to increase the quality and affordability of health insurance, really by expanding the public and private insurance coverage for every individual in the United States. So as of September, as of right now, I took the latest stats from the Census Bureau, so that's 48 million uninsured Americans ready. That's a great opportunity and a challenge for healthcare providers to provide market coverage and increase their market share. And it's also a challenge, with that many people, how we can efficiently service those millions of new customers, whether they're signing up for new policies, whether they're making inquiries about a certain policy, or in fact, even some things like requesting health records and such like. So how, the real question is for providers and for payers is, how can we do that efficiently, effectively? And more folks are turning to the cloud. And we're seeing from ourselves, Salesforce is becoming one of those go-to pieces of software that we'll use, primarily because of its flexibility. It's cloud-based. We don't really have to install anything. There's a bunch of modules, sales, service, marketing, sort of collaborations, tools, and really helps us as payers and providers to reach those new customers and service those new customers in brand new ways. So, that all sounds great, but, when the rubber meets the road, there is one tiny little issue. Salesforce itself, as we see here, very user-friendly screens, but, they can be incredibly long. And, what does that do? Well, the sort of side effect of that, and I'll just actually rewind that. So the side effect of that is when I'm servicing my customer and doing queries and finding out about their records, as the user themselves, I've got to, sort of hunt and peck around the form. Maybe data entry itself would be error-prone. Maybe I'm forgetting what fields that I need to fill in, or what are the important fields, or and even just the process of servicing a customer, which is maybe I need to log that the customer made a call. I need to fill in or send them an email or some corresponding data, about the Affordable Care Act options or the policy options that are available to them. And it's really, that really puts a strain on not only providing snappy user service, but also, on a strain on training my call center folks to be able to do that effectively. So again, data entry is time consuming. Users forget what fields to enter data and in what order. There's a lot of redundant tasks. And if I want to turn that around and make that a better user experience for my call center agent, I really, I really have to look at custom coding. So that's just sort of the hard way. the easy way, and we'll see some of this stuff today actually in a couple of seconds. The better way is to sort of guide and script and allow my call center agent to react to customer questions and guide them through a nice step-by-step process and automate as much of that conversation as possible. So the follow-up, the collateral or the policy brochures to send, maybe there's some helpful links to other sort of websites that would help the caller and the potential policy holder. And as you'll see and Eric's going to show, we're going to have best practice. We can sort of do it on any device, anywhere, with a phenomenal demo. And hand coding is not really required. And I'm going to defer a bunch of this actually to Jim. So, don't take my word for it. So with that, actually, I think it's just best if I parlay the presentation to Eric to show the demonstration. So Eric, I'm going to pass you control and take it away.
Okay, great. So thanks, Clive. I think Clive made a number of interesting points there. One of the effects of the Affordable Care Act is that healthcare payers now need to morph their business from strictly a B2B scenario where you're selling to groups, and you need to spin up a B2C, a business-to-consumer type operation. That's typically done by call centers. Salesforce is a great platform for operating a call center. But as Clive said, for the actual call interaction, it's great to provide guidance and help to your call center agent. So I'm going to show you an example based on a healthcare payer that is now going to be offering individual policies under the Affordable Care Act. And if I come into my lead record, perhaps you track people by leads, perhaps you do it by contacts, doesn't matter. Cloud Extend can work on any object in Salesforce. If I open up this section called Cloud Extend Wizards or Guides, I tend to call them wizards, process wizards. Some people call them process guides. I have a bunch of wizards that can help me with my work. And under healthcare, for instance, I have a call script for the ACA program. So you see this particular healthcare program let their call center agents follow one of two paths to begin with. They ran a promotion where they offered an ACA insider's guide. And the first thing you would ask the caller is, are you calling about the guide, or did you want to get information about our health policies? And so I'll say, Francois is calling in response to our advertisement. She wants the insider's guide. And then I click on the button down here, and that's going to take me down a path. And I say, okay, well, great, Francois. Would you prefer I send it to this address? And she might tell me, it's not 123 Summer Street. It's 12 Summer Street, and it's actually San Francisco. So that's okay. That helps us improve our data. I can say corrected address to make a note there, so you can see I can build up my notes as I go along. Jim, that's actually a trick I learned from you, back from watching you one time show me how you use it. And now I would say, Francois, great, your product information is going to be coming in about a week or so. Would you like me to email you a copy? And if she says yes, I click the yes button. Now I can verify the email address, and I better put in my own email address. I don't really want to send something due to a demo out to Francois. So I confirm the email address. And then just like that, I say, great, Francois, your email address has arrived. Or sorry, your insider's guide should have arrived via email. And now I can go on and just collect a little more information, and this is sort of best practices. Is it okay to survey you? Yes. Is it okay to mail you? Well, yeah, we're already mailing the insider's guide. Email, okay, sure. Let's see, what's the best way to contact you? I'll say, how about mobile phone and email? What are the best days to contact? Maybe Francois says, call me on the weekend, so I pick those 2 days. You can see I have a multi-select pick list here that I can use to collect that info. And now I'll just get a couple more questions about, let's see, she said to call next week, use mobile phone, weekends are best. So again, I'm building up the note, and that's it. We're all done. Any additional questions? No? This is the note that will be put into the Salesforce record. I'll just say continue. I could have added and edited that further. And success. Notes are done. Now when I click done, we can come back and we can see the product or policy she was interested in at this time is just the ACA Insider's Guide. Best time to call is on Saturday and Sunday. We've got the notes down here, and I've got a task to call back in 1 week. I think it's actually 5 business days. I forget how I said it. I'll show you that in a moment. And then lastly, we've got notes from the caller, and if I open that up, we'll see those notes that I put in there. Now let's go back and say I call Francois back in a week, or perhaps she calls back to our call center. And by the way, in the real world, a lot of our customers use CTI adapters, computer telephony integration, to pop up the right lead based on the inbound phone number. So now I've got these notes here. I can say, Francois called back, interested in policies. And so I can click on health policies, proceed to policy selection, yes. So it turns out she wants to consider either fixed copay or low cost, high deductible. I'm going to make a note here, low cost is most important. And then I would say, okay, well that's great. How did you hear about our particular policies? What got you interested in that? She learned about low cost from our ACA guide. That's the path here. Now, we could go on and say, we have some other policies that might make sense. Can I ask you some questions? If she said yes, we could say, are you eligible for CORBRA? And one thing I want to emphasize here is this is not just a call script guiding an agent through the questions. This is actually recording all of these answers as we go along. And so because it's all being recorded, you can actually make recommendations for the best policies as well. So she wants lowest monthly cost. We already know she's very interested in low cost. So as I build up these answers and record these to Salesforce, I'm able to make recommendations. So we're going to go for lower cost again. And then eventually we'll get to a screen here where we make the recommendations. And again, as before, this information is all recorded to the Salesforce record. So now, a very important question I'm sure going through your mind is, I'm sure everybody on this call is probably saying, you know what, Eric, that's an interesting call center script, but I know a much better way to do it. And I wouldn't expect you to say anything less. It's very important that you can customize and optimize the process for your particular business, your particular calling tactics, and your strategies. And so let me show you how you design a Cloud Extend guide or wizard. I've switched over to the Cloud Extend Guide Designer, and now you're looking at the script I was just running. We first said, what are you calling about today? When they said ACA Insider's Guide, we went off and we reviewed the mailing address. We set the product interest to ACA package. We asked if it was okay to email. When she said yes, we verified the email address. Then we sent the email using a template in Salesforce. By the way, you can use email replacement services. You don't have to use Salesforce's email, but it's handy to do so. And then we went in and we got the best time to call. And this is a sub-guide. This plus sign means it's going to go over to another guide and go through the contact permissions, additional questions, etc. So rather than spend a lot of time on that, I'm going to actually show you how you can build a guide. So I'm going to click the New button, and I'm going to say this is a webinar demo. And I'm going to have this guide run on a lead. I'm going to put a tag on it called healthcare so you can, it'll get segregated, it'll get sorted when it displays at runtime. And that's all I do. I've got a guide. So now the first step I have is a screen step. And a screen step presents a screen to the user. I'm going to say this guide will verify caller info, then optionally email ACA guide. All right, and I can drop graphics into it, so maybe I'll go and put something like the Informatica Cloud logo in there just to remind everybody what this is all about today. And I could say just go on. So this is not a very fancy screen. It's just a simple screen that's going to tell the user what it does, and it has a logo on it. All right, so far, very simple, not very sophisticated. On the next step, though, I'm going to say, let's verify some information. So verify the following for this caller. So to put fields on the screen to update them, I just come to this insert field for update, and now I've got all the fields from my lead record in Salesforce. So I could put in the street and update that. I could put in the city. I can put in the state. Let's see, easiest just to filter this way. I don't really need state, province. I'm assuming this is U.S., but obviously we could change that if we have Canadian. The webinar attendees, I'll put in the zip. Again, don't care about the postal code. And anything like, I think, maybe phone would be important to put in there as well. So we'll put phone on there. And I always like to have graphics. I'm really obsessed about it. I love to have graphics just to sort of visually cue people on how it works. Resize that up, and I will say verify the above info. Again, not trying to be too sophisticated. But when I click preview, you get to see what the screen looks like. I'm going to actually add one more thing because we get this question a lot. What if it's a pick list? So one thing certainly is a pick list on a lead is the status. If you drop a pick list in, you'll see we pull up the pick list values, and you'll actually get a pick list at runtime.
So Eric, actually, can I just make a point, or you're actually picking the fields from Salesforce, right? That's like.
That's right. That's right. All of those fields that I was showing are actually the fields that are defined in Salesforce. So things like status, there's the pick list. Phone was in here. There it is. The address is in down here. So that's right. I'm just going to let the user. I'm letting the user update that information as they go. So now I'm going to do another step. I'm going to yet another screen step. I'm going to be quick about this. Can I email the ACA guide to you? Question mark. And the possible answers are no and yes. Put a quick graphic on the screen. This won't take long. Put that on there. And now, since I've asked a question, I've given it two possible answers. You'll see that we've got two buttons on the screen for those possible answers. By the way, you can have lots of branches here. You expand these out. And if you do that, you get a whole bunch of buttons across the bottom. It doesn't make any sense in this scenario, but just sometimes people ask, how many choices can you have? It turns out you can have a lot. All right, and so now when I click OK, I get two branches coming out. So they said, yes, send me the ACA guide. Now I'm going to do work for the user. I'm going to say, instead of doing a screen step, I'm going to do an automated step. And now I get all these actions I can do for the user. So I can do things like convert the lead, create any object in Salesforce. I'll do that in a moment. I can send email. I can do integration tasks, set field values. So I'm going to send email. And I'm just going to send a free-form email for now. And so I'm going to say the subject of the email is your ACA guide is attached. And I'm going to say the recipient of this should be coming from a field in Salesforce. It should be coming from the lead. And then for the body of the email message, I'm going to let the user enter some stuff on the screen at runtime. So since the subject's a constant, the recipient object, the person that's going to get it, is a field value. Since we're having the body come from the screen, I need to set up the screen so I can say review and edit this message. I can drop the body of the email in. I think I'll put that on its own line. And then I can come in and do some things in here. I can actually put default text in, again, to save the user some time. So I can say dear, and I can drop in the first name of the lead. Your ACA guide is attached. I will call next week. And then I can drop in the runtime user's name, their full name. All right, so that's a simple little email. I'm going fast here. But if I preview it, we'll see what the screen looks like. That will all fill in at runtime. And then one more thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a task for myself to remind me to call this person back in a week. So again, an automated step. I'm going to create a task in Salesforce. And you can see you can create standard objects, custom objects. We have a lot in this showcase org. So I say create a task, and I will say call back, and I can put in the person's name so I remember what the task is all about. I don't want to put in a specific date for this task. Instead, I want to make it a certain number of days from today. So I'll say let's make it 5 business days from today. The task hasn't started. This is normal priority. That's all I have to do, create task to set reminder, call back. All right, and I could go on and on, but let me just finish this off. I'll have an end step. That means we've reached the end of that branch of the logic. Email sent, task created, and that's finished up. I'll save the changes. I can simulate this in the designer. So if I click simulate, we'll see what the screens look like. That's the screen where we're going to update information. Oh, status fields required, so I've got to actually make an entry, even though this is simulated, it's not recording. Do that. Here's the email that's going to go. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to publish it. None of this takes effect until things are published. And then I'm going to come over and grab a lead. So there we go. And just take a look at this guy, TJ Smith. So here we are in healthcare. Here's that webinar demo guide I just built. If I start running it, we get that first screen that does nothing. It just says go on. But now we're getting that screen where we can update things. So I can say this is 489 Chestnut Street. So you see it pulls up the information that's already there, but then it lets you update things. I should maybe capitalize some of these things. PA. Let's say the status is, we're going to change the status to contacted. Then when I continue on, those updates are made. Can I email you the guide? Yep. I can say, too bad about, wow. You know what? The hardest thing to do is to type when people are watching you. Too bad about those Phillies. Something like that to personalize it a little bit. That'll send the email out, and we're done. And so now you see I've done things. The lead status changed to contacted. The address got updated to 489. We've got a task reminder to call back TJ in 5 business days. We've got email that went out, and that got recorded. So hopefully that helped you see how using Cloud Extend can not only guide your users to do the right thing, but also make them much more efficient, because things like generating emails can be done automatically, or you can generate 90% of it and let them customize it. And you can set task reminders automatically for them so they know what to do. By the way, I haven't shown you the email, but here's that email that went out to Francois. It had a PDF attached to it from a template. So I just wanted to prove to you those emails really were coming out. I always send them to myself. So there's one last thing I want to show you, and that's the ability of Cloud Extend to let you update Salesforce from mobile devices. And of course, Salesforce has that capability. But with Cloud Extend, you can give your users a world-class mobile experience. So you're looking at my iPhone. I've got a downward-facing webcam. We jokingly call it my TV studio. It's actually a shoebox that I just fold up and carry around with me. But there's a downward-facing webcam. You're looking at my iPhone. I've got this icon up here for Cloud Extend. So I can just come in and click that. And that's going to give me a list of guides that I can run. And so let's say I'm a healthcare payer, and one of my strategies is I'm going to go out to shopping malls and try to meet young people, or maybe middle-aged people, or maybe even people my age who might need insurance coverage. So here's a little guide down here. I'll point to it using my pointer. Let's generate a lead from a mall visit. If I click that, it starts running a guide. And I hope you like what you see here. This will run on Android devices. It'll run on tablets. It'll run on iPhones. What this will do is kind of guide me through things in a very nice fashion on a mobile device, whereas if I was trying to do this on the full Salesforce UI, it would be painful. And so I think, Clive, I might be overloading my internet connection, but here's some things we can do. One of the things you want to be careful about is you don't want to just willy-nilly add leads into your Salesforce database without checking to see if they already exist. So I can do things like search by name or phone number. I'll put in my phone number, which is one I use a lot, so we'll probably find a bunch of leads here. So phone number to search. Let's see, did it find anybody with that phone number? Didn't find anybody. Go back and try that again. I have a feeling I mistyped the phone number. Clive, did you happen to notice what number I typed?
It was very quick, Eric, so I didn't. No, I missed it.
Okay, let's try it again. Just want to see, I think I have records in here using this phone number, so I would expect to find them. Hey, but if I don't, you know what? I've always got this option down here to create
a new one, yeah.
There we go. So I put in 978-470. So we found these various leads. Let's say none of those are the person I'm talking to in person, so I can create a new lead. And all I have to do is enter the person's first name and last name. You can see I had that Bob Smoth thing there, but we'll do Bob Smith this time. So let's say I'm talking to Bob. And I can go Smith. That's all I need to create a lead. I don't need to put anything more in. And now I can say, hey, Bob, it's great to meet you. Can I send you the Insider's Guide? If I say yes, that'll, I think it's going to come up and ask me to verify. Oh, that was an email. If I go back, it actually says, can I mail you a copy of our Insider's Guide? So if I say yes, of course, I have to put in the address. So I can say 7539 State Street, New Line, Chicago, Illinois, 75331. Oh, I messed that up. 7513 North State Street, New Line, Chicago, Illinois, 47113. You got to click that done button to use the voice to text. So that got the address in there. So that'll go update the record. And now it'll ask me, can I email it? Sure, let's email. And of course, we got to be careful about the email address, so I'll put in just mine. Or maybe I'll, yeah, Bierman's easier. I'll send it to you, Clive.
Okay, thanks. I always love spam.
This will not go to your spam filter. .com. Done. And then the last thing it'll do is let me put some notes in about this guy, Bob Smith, that we just talked to. Okay to call, sure. Let's put in a phone number for him. I'll put in my cell phone so we can just get that updated. And then, lastly, we'll put in some notes about meeting Bob. So Bob is very interested in buying his own insurance policy, period. He would like to get off his parents' coverage, comma, because he's approaching age 26, period. I think he'll buy something soon, comma. He's a very good prospect, comma. Plus, he's a big Obama fan, period. And that gets our notes in there nice and easy. Using the voice to text. So I was a little more verbose than I usually am. It took a moment for voice to text to get it, but that's a nice, easy way to get the notes into Salesforce. And then when we're done, if I come back, I'll go take a look at today's leads. Just run a report in Salesforce. There's the guy Bob Smith I just did. You see the email address. And if we come in, we'll see, I think I created a task. But we've got the notes from the conversation. And there you've got that text I just typed in. So that's the demonstration, Clive. At this point, I think we're going to turn it over to Jim Hensel of SaleRock Services. I think what you'll find very interesting about Jim's presentation is Jim has run a couple of different call centers using the Cloud Extend technology in different types of businesses. So I think it'll be interesting to hear Jim's experience in the real world running a call center, and Cloud Extend can be adapted. So Jim, over to you. It'll be a pleasure to hear from you here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Eric. Great. Well, everybody, first I just want to apologize for my slides. They're not great, but we do have some fantastic experience with the tool, so I'll run you through who we are, the benefits we see with the tool, and a real-world example of what I've done in just the past week. So SaleRock predominantly focuses on the legal services space. We assist attorneys and other companies to automate their business process and streamline that business process. We're very heavy on the call center side of things. We tend to run everything through Salesforce, sales, marketing, all operations. We have that luxury because our businesses are all built within the last few years. We were an early adopter of the Salesforce Flow tool, which if you're sort of looking at Informatica's offering here, it's another tool out there, and I can tell you that we 100% don't use it anymore. And just to give you an example of what we're doing, we've got across our businesses hundreds of call center agents. We service thousands of new clients every month, caseloads of tens of thousands of claims simultaneously. So what do we use CloudExtend for? Informatica's tool here. Our primary goal is to, just sort of looking in the middle of this, we want to take relatively low-cost employees, call center employees, and get really high-quality work out of them. And that's not easy to do. To do that, typically you've got to really put a lot of technology in their hands and wrap structure around what it is that they're doing day in and day out so that you can get consistency and good speed. In call centers, it's often all about average handle time. That's a typical method for measuring how your agents are doing. We take it a step further. We want to see what is the output they're able to do in that average handle time. So we use a lot of automation to enable them to do a lot more than they might be able to do otherwise. So we joke around and we say one of our biggest strengths is domination through automation. CloudExtend is the tool that we use for that. So what does it get us? CloudExtend allows us to standardize sort of the input and output of what our agents are doing, and I think you saw that through Eric's demonstration. The process of running through a conversation. He mentioned CTI popping a particular client or lead or whatever screen. We actually take it a step further, and our CTI integration pops the appropriate guide based on what our telephony platform is saying they're calling in about. So we do some data dipping ahead of time through the IVR or through the front end of our call center platform to identify what it is that they're calling about to the best of our abilities, and then pop the most appropriate guide rather than actually just popping their screen. Other thing, we are able to speed up. Even though they're low cost, we want to make them do more in the time that they have. So we can speed up all this business process. Development. So you saw what Eric was able to do. My background, I'm not a programmer, but with CloudExtend and Salesforce together, I've been able to develop a tremendous amount of our business processes without really having to turn to our development team. And this was something we turned away from for a little while and then revisited and found that there was no other choice. We have to stick with using these quick turn development processes, getting solutions out, 80% solutions in hours or days as opposed to weeks, months, or never. We have our management meetings every Tuesday, and the most common person's name that comes up from the IT department is the person that knows how to use this tool most effectively. He happens to be our lowest paid technologist. He's not a programmer. He was a web developer, and he really has gotten to know the CloudExtend tool, which is not very complicated, in and out. And he's able to deploy solutions, as I said, just very, very quickly. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll give you an example of something that he did. Took 2 hours and was a process. We've been managing attorneys. We had spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. They're great for some things, but not for others. But we were managing hundreds of attorneys on an Excel file that was being shared. It was actually a Google Doc being shared amongst 10 of our attorneys internally. It was cumbersome. We couldn't do any automation off of it. It was being mismanaged. There was no standardization of how data was stored within that. So Pete was tasked with changing how we interface with that. So the first part of that was he built out a data model, updated Salesforce to have the appropriate objects so we could store everything in it, resynced CloudExtend with Salesforce, and then built out the ability for us to, through a guide, update contact information, areas of coverage for our partners, payments, for our partners to be able to log in and close the loop on claims that they've been representing us in, actually to also approve their own payments or update any of their own information. And as I said, this is ours. And if you try and do this in other ways, it's weeks, months. These are just not things you can do even with Apex and Visualforce in the same amount of time. So, any questions for me?
No, thanks very much, Jim. So, even though you got like contract lawyers, there was a specific object, that you created, did you say?
Yeah, in that case, we made a custom object. So we made a custom object to store everything. The process for using Cloud Extend is when you're making updates to the data model within Salesforce. Essentially, that means making a new field, making a new object. You have to resync the tool in order to have everything be synchronized. So we made the new objects with all the appropriate fields on it, synced it, built out the guides, figured out we wanted to change actually a pick list. One of the pick lists we had was the priority, the ranking of that particular attorney for a place where a hearing could happen. We circled back and said first we had primary or secondary, and then actually after looking at it we said, you know what, we really don't want to do primary secondary. We want to rank them differently. So we changed it through a 1 through 10 pick list, so we first did that in Salesforce, resynced it, and it just that was now deployed within the guides. So
and once you said it deployed within the guides, that went immediately out to your call center or your CSRs in your call center?
Yeah, in this case, we have this particular tool is used within the support team of our attorneys, but we have I talk about with our CSRs, everything is managed through guides. So we have, over time, prior to building this out, we had figured out, okay, these are the 10 different case types we can have, and here are the workflows we want to run through. And people were spending all day clicking through and updating notes here and doing this there, and we have a lot of cross-object interaction, right? So a simple example of cross-object is just creating an activity. So you want to create an activity, but doing that from one screen, you've got to actually navigate from screen to screen within Salesforce. It slows you down, and slowing down means your calls take longer, means you're spending more money. So with Cloud Extend, we're able to string it all together, have a lot of stuff happen in the background. Eric previously showed you the emailing, and that's some of the emailing built in. We use a third-party emailer because we're sending out a lot more emails than Salesforce lets you do in a day. But there's a tremendous amount of flexibility with what you can do natively with Cloud Extend, and even a lot of custom ability to go beyond what they'll natively do and build custom steps. So everything that Eric was showing you, each of those is a step, and we've built out different custom steps: address verification, send SMS, emailing, but using a different provider. So there's just a lot of flexibility there.
Then did I hear you say you got contracts as well? You were doing something with contracts?
Within, we're not, but it's
okay.
It's something that you could do very easily. And it's I don't know if are contracts synced by default within the tool?
Yes, they would be, Jim. So yeah, if you've got contracts in there, we'll sync.
Yeah, so we use, unfortunately, a long time ago, we made a bad decision not to use the native lead object within Salesforce. So we have our lead management is on a custom object we created because we thought we knew better. So there's some functionality that even today within Salesforce that I can't use, and that's just not our business process. But we have our equivalent of that. We have an approval process that gets kicked off from a guide as we navigate from our lead process to a client. That whole review process is handled within a guide. We are able to capture the quality of the client, the quality of the intake done by the call center rep, and all sorts of additional information in that review process.
Great, smashing. That gives me a much better picture of sort of not just only how you're using the screens and in your call centers, but the third-party integrations too, beyond what Eric showed. So Thanks very much.
Very welcome.
So I just want to give a quick overview, actually, of where Cloud Extend sort of fits within the Informatica Cloud family. So for those of you that don't know, Informatica Cloud, we've got over 2,000 Salesforce customers that connect to hundreds of on-premise and and other SaaS applications too. We're doing about over 2 billion records a day processing in the cloud there, and there's probably about 60 billion a month. So phenomenally great numbers and great customer portfolio. Yeah, including Jim, you're my best one. So, so actually, Cloud Extend is on the right-hand side of process. Our process automation product. But I mean, if you start with your Informatica, your Salesforce implementation with a sandbox, so from development sandbox to sort of user adoption and user efficiency on the right-hand side. So that we have a functionality for data masking. So if you create a sandbox and you don't want private information exposed in your development system there, we can mask that data so things like social security numbers are obscured. Integration, we talked about some of the things that we integrate to. So not just SAP, but perhaps there's other systems that you want to grab information from and feed into Salesforce and vice versa. So we have cloud integration. Jim mentioned address validation. So there's a data quality component that we have. So address validation being one of those things, data cleansing, and that naturally moves on to Cloud MDM. So as you get more and more data, you can get that single customer view and get different visualizations of that customer. So, so for example, am I Jim H or Jim Hensel, or are they all the same person with inside your Salesforce org or multiple Salesforce orgs? So we can really get that view. And then finally, what we've been talking about today, once you spend all that time doing data cleansing and getting your data models correct and making sure your integrations are fine, the process automation really is a nice icing on the cake that really enhances the Salesforce user experience, increases that user productivity, and makes sure that that you're doing your best to make sure that your users operate most efficiently with that data. And of course, it's to increase revenues, ensure your success, and reduce your business risk with your Salesforce deployment. And just one more point, if you look at the IT administration category on the AppExchange, we have a solution for every subcategory there. So there's master data management, the data loader, the Salesforce integration, process automation, and address validation. So and there's more coming. So a great set of complementary tools. While I'm talking about Dreamforce, a quick plug, or Salesforce, a quick plug, come see us at Dreamforce. So there will be emails going out shortly to tell you what booth we're in and the types of events we'll be partaking in and the parties. So all of that info is coming. And now, questions and answers. So I'm watching the stream here. There's a few question and answers. So just as a reminder, if you'd like to put a question that you have in the Q&A panel, we will attempt to answer them since we have a few minutes left. I see that the first question, I think actually we mentioned a couple of times, and I'll address it to you, Eric. Does it work? Does Cloud Extend work on more than just standard objects?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer is yes. It'll work on all standard objects, but also any custom objects that you have defined as well. And so there are actually people who build Cloud Extend applications to do things on Force.com that they might not even consider doing in Salesforce.com, like a travel and lodging process. You can create literally, events could be an object in Salesforce, and then lodging properties could be a related list to that. Cloud Extend can create all of those and manipulate all of those. And it's a related note, Cloud Extend can work across objects. I didn't really show that in the demo, but if you're running on an account, you can create an opportunity on the account, you can create a contact on the account, and then you can update the created opportunities, created accounts, all from one panel. So that addresses a common complaint that newer users of Salesforce have, which is having to constantly switch between screens to get their work done. With Cloud Extend, you can have them all do that from one panel across custom objects and standard objects.
And the next question I have is sort of related, I think, that it says, you showed it with inside Salesforce. Can I do like customer self-service on a web page or portal?
So that's a really interesting idea. And the answer, again, is yes. You can publish a Cloud Extend guide, say on a case, if you're exposing a case through the customer portal, or on any object that you're exposing through a portal. And so then you can guide your external users, customers and partners, to do the right thing in Salesforce. And we have a lot of customers who do that because, as you can imagine, if your internal users of Salesforce are doing the wrong thing, one option is you can go yell at them. We don't recommend that, but that's possibly an option. But if your partners and customers do the wrong thing in Salesforce, you can't really call them up and yell at them and say they did the wrong thing. And of course, I'm being a little facetious here, that you don't have the opportunity to do the training in best practices for external customers and partners. And so using a Cloud Extend guide on a portal guides them to do the right thing. You don't have to worry about training, and you don't have to worry about them, not following best practices.
One more, thanks, Eric. The next question I have here is what you showed with the mobile, with the mobile iPhone application. How is this different than Salesforce Touch? Or is it different than Salesforce Touch? Sorry, I read that wrong.
Yeah, great question. So first of all, it is different. It's not using Salesforce Touch at all. If you look at, first and very importantly, Salesforce Touch right now only runs on iPads. It doesn't run on any Android devices. It doesn't run on iPhones. There are plans to get there, but it doesn't so far. And there's a pretty good reason for that. What Salesforce Touch does is it gives you access to the entire Salesforce interface, and it lets you do more mobile type things. So it enables voice to text, as you saw in our demo. It enables click wheels and date controls and swipe type gestures. So that's all well and good, but it doesn't fundamentally change the problem that the user has to know what to do in advance. They have to know to go to an account or go to a contact or go to the description of a lead. So Salesforce Touch, while it gives you a more mobile-like interface to everything in Salesforce, it's not providing a guided interface the way Cloud Extend does. And our contention is that, especially on the limited real estate of a smartphone, giving access to the entire UI, even if it's via swipes and mobile gestures, is still too overwhelming. You can't easily navigate it. If you give them a guided mobile experience, you get a much better mobile experience, and again, you get the users to do the right thing.
Great, thanks, Eric. Actually, and then I had a question for Jim. How long did you use Visual Flow?
Geez, the last flow we had left our system when they did the update of the most recent update, actually. And at that point, we said, you know what, let's just redesign anything that's still outstanding. I think we had used Flow when it was an offline design tool as well as while it was an online design tool. My experience is that transition was not done particularly gracefully. Our flows kept breaking with every update, which is a real pain in the butt when we've got, I don't know, every day we're down for our sales team is hundreds of thousands of revenue. So when your flow goes down, it really was a kick in the pants. So we made a transition all over to Cloud Extend the last time that happened to us, and we said, forget about it. We're just going to stick with Cloud Extend.
Fantastic. And in addition to that question, I think It says it. You mentioned triggers. You use triggers and Cloud Extend guides together?
We do. So Cloud Extend can run in a headless, or I guess Cloud Extend can run headless, which means that you have no human interaction. So when Eric was going through and doing the demonstration of things, of automated steps, you can design guides to essentially replace what you would do with an Apex trigger. So you can fire, it's called, I think, a headless guide using a workflow rule. So we use it all the time. It's really become we use them now instead of triggers frequently.
Okay, so sort of like an attended mode and an unattended mode, right? Just kick it off and let it go.
Correct. It requires no human interaction for certain things. So one thing, for example, that I might do is I might do a data validation or a deduping process when a lead is created in my system. So the first thing that happens is a workflow rule is fired, which triggers the guide, and that guide then is doing all the necessary queries and whatever else to make sure this isn't a dupe. We do a lot of data cleansing, many things just in the background.
Hey, Clive, I've got a question for Jim, kind of looping back to the previous one. Jim, you mentioned, I found it fascinating that you said, one of your most in-demand IT guys, came from a web development background. Was he also the person, prior to using Cloud Extend, was that the person you had using Visual Flow from Salesforce to implement process?
Yeah, he used Flow and now Cloud Extend. He won't go back.
Got it.
I'm laughing here because it sounds like I've done a plant. It sounds like you've done a plant, but you're quite serious, aren't you, Jim?
We joke. We come out of these management meetings, and our chairman tells him, "Hey, you should ask for a raise," because his name just comes up all day. And I'd love to say that it's all him, but it's really all the tool. So somebody with the right mind and somebody that's done web development, not very complicated, but they can think about things in the right way.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Eric. I'm just going to make one last call for questions because I see we're coming to the top of the hour. Let me quickly move on while any questions come in. There's a bunch of next steps. So, if you want to try and simulate what Eric did today, call us and we'll get you a free trial. We're also offering, I think now once a month, online training for Cloud Extend. So go to the link there and see when the next class is. Check out our AppExchange review. So, I know we've had a great validation here from Jim, but, there's hundreds of other folks there that have written great reviews, not just about Cloud Extend, but also the entire Informatica Cloud portfolio. And also sort of get social, follow us for the latest news. We're Cloud Extend on Twitter. We're also at InfaCloud, INFACLOUD. So I'm just going to make one last call for questions. Okay, we have no more. So it's just left for me to say thank you. Firstly, thank you, Jim, for a great real-world example. Eric,
Okay.
Thanks very much for a great demonstration, and thanks to all of our attendees today for hanging on and listening to us for an hour. So thank you all very much.